My name is Jenna, and I'm 36. For the last decade, I've been the responsible one in my family, the sturdy oak in a forest of leaning pines. While I was grinding away, building a successful catering business from my tiny apartment kitchen, my younger sister, Becca, was the quote creative genius, the one destined for stardom, according to my parents. I wasn't just the supportive older sister, I was the primary investor, the silent backer, the one who poured her life savings and countless sleepless nights into Becca's supposedly brilliant tech startup. The startup blew up. Becca became the wonderkind CEO, gracing magazine covers and giving TED Talks. And me? I was erased from the narrative, dismissed as just family support. They didn't just steal my money, they stole my contribution, my ideas, my part of the success. When I finally found proof of their deliberate, calculated betrayal, proof hidden in the very code I helped write, they threatened to ruin me. They thought I'd back down, just like I always had. They forgot who taught Becca how to code. They forgot who built the damn engine. And they definitely underestimated how far I'd go to reclaim what was mine. This is how I went from being their stepping stone to the wrecking ball that brought their whole empire crashing down. Growing up in our suburban Ohio home felt like constantly auditioning for a role I was never going to get. My parents, bless their well-meaning but utterly biased hearts, had cast their lot early. Becca, 4 years younger, was the star. She was bubbly, charismatic, effortlessly charming, and floated through life on a cloud of parental adoration and lowered expectations. If she drew a lopsided stick figure, it was framed. If she got a C+ in algebra, it was because the teacher didn't appreciate her creative mind. I, on the other hand, was the reliable, invisible stage manager. Good grades? Expected. Helping around the house? My duty. Saving my allowance to buy something I wanted? Practical. I was the sensible one, the responsible one, the one who quietly fixed things while Becca was busy charming the world. It wasn't that my parents didn't love me, it was just that their love for Becca was louder, brighter, and came with a seemingly unlimited budget. Our paths diverged sharply after high school. I went to the state university, scraped by with scholarships, student loans, and multiple part-time jobs, and got a degree in hospitality management. I had a passion for food, for creating experiences, and a quiet, burning ambition to build something of my own. Becca, meanwhile, charmed her way into a prestigious and insanely expensive private college on the East Coast to study. Well, it changed every semester. First, it was art history, then philosophy, then finally, computer science, a choice that surprised everyone. My parents, convinced this was her true calling, took out loans they couldn't really afford to keep her enrolled. The summer after my college graduation, tragedy struck. My dad, a kind, hard-working electrician, suffered a severe stroke. It left him partially paralyzed and unable to work. The medical bills piled up instantly, a terrifying mountain of debt. My mother, who worked part-time as a librarian, was overwhelmed. Becca was away at school, insulated from the immediate crisis. So the weight, as always, fell on me. I moved back home. I put my own dreams on hold, taking a grueling job managing a chain restaurant to help cover the bills. For 2 years, my life was a blur of spreadsheets, staff schedules, and the constant, low-grade hum of anxiety about making ends meet. It was during this time, huddled together in our shared worry, that Becca first pitched her big idea. She had become obsessed with coding, surprisingly adept at it. She had an idea for an app, a platform that would connect local artisans and craftspeople directly with buyers, cutting out the middleman. She called it Artisan Connect. She spoke about it with a passion and focus I had never seen in her before. She sketched out wireframes on napkins, talked excitedly about user interfaces and algorithms. For the first time, her creative genius actually seemed tethered to something real. "This could be huge, Jenna," she'd said, her eyes shining with genuine excitement. "It could solve all our money problems. Dad could get the best physical therapy, Mom could retire. And, the unspoken part, Becca could finally achieve the stardom everyone had always predicted for her. The only problem was funding. She needed seed money to build a prototype, to hire a freelance developer to help with the back-end coding. Her skills were mostly front-end. Banks wouldn't touch a concept from a college student with no business experience. That's when my small, secret nest egg came into play. Before my dad's stroke, I had received a modest inheritance from my great-aunt, $25,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine, painstakingly saved and earmarked for the down payment on my own future bakery. It was my escape hatch, my ticket to my own dream. Becca knew about the money, and she knew exactly which buttons to push. She didn't just ask for a loan. She framed it as a lifeline for the entire family. "Think about it, Jenna," she'd pleaded, her voice laced with calculated vulnerability. This isn't just for me. It's for Mom and Dad. It's for Kaiden. You'd be an investor, a co-founder. We'd build this together. My mother chimed in, tears in her eyes. Oh, Jenna, it would mean so much. Your sister is so brilliant. This could be the answer to all our prayers. My dad, struggling with his speech but his eyes full of hope, just squeezed my hand. Against my better judgment, against the tiny, screaming voice in the back of my head that knew my sister's track record, I said yes. I wasn't just giving her the money. I was investing my entire future, the physical manifestation of my own deferred dream, into hers. We didn't sign any formal contracts. It was a family deal, sealed with hugs and tearful promises of future riches. I transferred the entire $25,000 to Becca's account. My safety net was gone. For the next year, I lived a double life. By day, I managed the restaurant, dealing with inventory and irate customers. By night, I became Becca's unpaid consultant, business advisor, and even, sometimes, her coder. My business degree, my practical experience, it turned out they were useful. I helped her refine her business plan. I helped her vet the freelance developer. And when that developer flaked out halfway through, leaving the back-end code a tangled mess, I was the one who spent weeks hunched over my laptop, teaching myself Python and SQL on the fly, painstakingly debugging and rewriting the critical database and transaction code that would be the app's engine. Becca was the visionary, the front-end designer, making things look pretty. I was the one in the boiler room, making sure the whole damn thing actually worked. We rarely talked about the $25,000 or my role as a co-founder. When I occasionally tried to bring up formalizing our partnership, Becca would wave me off. Don't worry about the boring stuff, Jenna. We're sisters. It's all good. My parents echoed her sentiment. Just let Becca focus on the creative side, honey. You know how she gets stressed. The app, Artisan Connect, launched 18 months later, and it was an instant hit. Becca's timing was perfect. The market was hungry for a platform that supported local makers. Her charming personality and infectious enthusiasm made her the perfect face for the brand. She did interviews, secured partnerships, and charmed investors. Within a year, venture capital funding poured in. Artisan Connect exploded. Becca moved out of her dorm room and into a swanky loft in Silicon Valley. She hired a team. She became CEO Becca Bellwether, the tech wonderkind, the poster child for young female entrepreneurship. Her face was on the cover of Wired, Tongue Forbes, Fast Company. She gave TED Talks about following your passion and disrupting the market. And me? I was back in Ohio, still managing the restaurant, still sending money home to help my parents. Though less now, as Becca had started giving them a generous allowance. My $25,000 investment? My late nights coding? My business advice? It was never mentioned. In Becca's carefully crafted public narrative, she was the sole visionary, the coding prodigy who had bootstrapped her way to success through sheer brilliance and determination. When interviewers asked about her early days, she'd vaguely mention family support, painting a picture of encouraging parents who believed in her dream. I was relegated to a footnote, an invisible part of the supportive background scenery. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. Becca was successful. My family was financially secure. My initial investment had, in theory, paid off spectacularly, even if I hadn't seen a dime of the returns. But as Becca's fame grew, so did the sting of my erasure. She flew my parents out to California first class for lavish visits. She bought them a new car. She talked about buying them a condo near her. They, in turn, became her biggest cheerleaders, bragging about our Becca, the CEO, to anyone who would listen. My own, quieter success with my slowly growing catering business barely registered. The few times I tried to gently remind Becca about our initial agreement, about my role as a co-founder, she would laugh it off. Oh, Jenna, don't be silly. That was just seed money. Family helps family. You wouldn't want to complicate things with lawyers and equity shares, would you? It would look so grasping. Grasping. That was the word she used. As if asking for acknowledgement of my contribution, of the very foundation upon which her empire was built, was somehow greedy. My parents backed her up. Don't cause trouble, Sarah, my mother warned me during one visit. Becca is under a lot of pressure. Just be happy for her success. Happy? I was heartbroken. I was furious. I felt like a fool. I had poured my heart, my soul, and my future into her dream, and my reward was to be completely, utterly erased. The invisible stagehand wasn't even allowed to stand in the wings anymore. I had been kicked out of the theater entirely. Life settled into a strange, bitter new normal. Becca was a distant supernova, occasionally gracing us with her presence during holidays, always arriving with expensive gifts and stories of tech world glamour that felt like they belonged to another planet. My parents basked in her reflected glow, their financial worries replaced by a smug, vicarious pride. And I just kept working. The catering business, the sweet spot, was finally starting to gain real traction. It wasn't Artisan Connect billions, but it was mine. I had built it with my own hands, my own recipes, my own hustle. I poured all my frustrated energy into it, working 18-hour days, perfecting menus, building relationships with clients. It became my refuge, the one place where my contribution was visible, undeniable. But the resentment festered. Every time I saw Becca's face on a magazine cover, every time my mother forwarded me another glowing article about her genius daughter, it felt like a fresh stab. The $25,000 was a constant aching void in my own finances. It was the down payment I never made, the new oven I couldn't afford, the marketing budget I didn't have. It was the ghost of my own deferred dream. I tried talking to my parents again, appealing to their sense of fairness. It was like talking to a brick wall. "Sarah, you need to let this go," my father said, his voice weary. "Becca has offered to help us financially. Why spoil things? What's done is done. What's done is that she built her success on my money and my work, and she refuses to even acknowledge it." I argued. "She's your sister," my mother said, as if that explained everything. "Just be proud of her." Proud? I felt like a footnote in my own family history. The breaking point came during a visit Becca made back to Ohio for a local tech conference, where she was the keynote speaker. She stayed at a fancy downtown hotel, not at our parents' house. She invited me for coffee at the hotel cafe, a seemingly conciliatory gesture. She looked every inch the tech CEO, sharp suit, perfect hair, an aura of expensive, effortless confidence. She talked for 20 minutes straight about her latest funding round, her expansion plans, her upcoming trip to Davos. She didn't ask me a single question about my life, my business. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Becca," I interrupted, my voice low but shaking. "We need to talk about the beginning, about Artisan Connect, about my $25,000, about the code I wrote." She sighed, a put-upon sound, like I was ruining her perfectly curated morning. "Jenna, are we really going back to this? I thought we were past it. That money was a gift, family support. You said so yourself." "I said I would invest," I hissed, leaning across the small table. "I said we would build it together. You used me, Becca. You used my money, you used my skills, and then you pretended I never existed." She actually rolled her eyes. "Oh please, don't be so dramatic. You debugged a few lines of code. It wasn't exactly rocket science. Any competent developer could have done it. Name's a few lines of code." She was dismissing the weeks of sleepless nights, the hundreds of hours I had spent untangling the mess left by her flaky freelancer, the critical database architecture I had designed from scratch. It was a lie so blatant, so insulting, that something inside me finally snapped. "You know what, Becca?" I said, standing up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. "You're right. It wasn't rocket science. It was just the entire foundation of your precious app. And you are a fraud." "She's your sister," my mother said, as if that explained everything. "Just be proud of her." Proud? I felt like a footnote in my own family history. The breaking point came during a visit Becca made back to Ohio for a local tech conference, where she was the keynote speaker. She stayed at a fancy downtown hotel, not at our parents' house. She invited me for coffee at the hotel cafe, a seemingly conciliatory gesture. She looked every inch the tech CEO, sharp suit, perfect hair, an aura of expensive, effortless confidence. She talked for 20 minutes straight about her latest funding round, her expansion plans, her upcoming trip to Davos. She didn't ask me a single question about my life, my business. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Becca," I interrupted, my voice low but shaking. "We need to talk about the beginning, about Artisan Connect, about my $25,000, about the code I wrote." She sighed, a put-upon sound, like I was ruining her perfectly curated morning. "Jenna, are we really going back to this? I thought we were past it. That money was a gift, family support. You said so yourself." I said I would invest, I hissed, leaning across the small table. "I said we would build it together. You used me, Becca. You used my money, you used my skills, and then you pretended I never existed." She actually rolled her eyes. "Oh please, don't be so dramatic. You debugged a few lines of code. It wasn't exactly rocket science. Any competent developer could have done it. Name's a few lines of code." She was dismissing the weeks of sleepless nights, the hundreds of hours I had spent untangling the mess left by her flaky freelancer, the critical database architecture I had designed from scratch. It was a lie so blatant, so insulting, that something inside me finally snapped. "You know what, Becca?" I said, standing up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. "You're right. It wasn't rocket science. It was just the entire foundation of your precious app. And you are a fraud." I walked out of that cafe, leaving her sitting there amidst the clatter of expensive coffee cups, her perfect CEO mask momentarily cracking to reveal the spoiled, entitled girl underneath. I walked out, and I didn't look back. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words, asterisk a few lines of code, asterisk echoed in my head, mocking me. I felt a surge of helpless, impotent rage. She was going to get away with it. She had the money, the power, the narrative. I had nothing but the bitter, unpublished truth. Or did I? An idea began to form. A dangerous, reckless spark in the darkness. The code, the back-end code I had written. It had been years, but I remembered it. I remembered the structure, the logic, the late-night fixes I had implemented. And I remembered something else. During that frantic, sleep-deprived period when I was fixing the freelancer's mess, I had been worried about Becca's tendency to promise features she didn't understand. As a failsafe, a way to protect the database integrity from potential future chaos, I had embedded a small, hidden subroutine. It was a diagnostic tool, designed to be triggered remotely by a complex, encrypted key sequence only I knew. It wouldn't crash the system, nothing so crude, but it would initiate a deep data integrity scan and generate a detailed, unalterable report, logging every transaction, every user interaction, every single line of code, and, critically, the original authorship metadata embedded within the comments of the core modules. Metadata that would clearly show my name, my email address, my timestamps, all over the foundational architecture of Artisan Connect. It was a ghost key, hidden deep within the machine. I had almost forgotten about it. At the time, I had seen it as a protective measure for the app itself. Now I saw it as something else entirely. It was proof. It was leverage. It was a potential weapon of mass destruction. Could I do it? Could I risk unleashing that? Exposing Becca wouldn't just hurt her. It would tank the company, hurt her investors, her employees, the very artisans the platform was designed to help. And it would undoubtedly unleash the full fury of my family upon me. I went up to my attic, a dusty repository of my past life. In a box labeled Old Tech, I found it. My college laptop, the one I had used during those late nights working on Becca's code. It took an hour to find the power cord and coax the old machine back to life. But it booted up. And there, buried in a folder cryptically labeled Recipes, was the original source code, the version with my hidden subroutine intact. And, more importantly, the encrypted key sequence needed to trigger it remotely. I stared at the lines of code on the screen, a language only a few people in the world could fully understand. It felt like holding a match in a room full of gasoline. Did I have the nerve to strike it? For 2 weeks I did nothing. I sat on the knowledge, the power, like a dragon hoarding a dangerous treasure. The internal conflict was agonizing. Part of me, the part that still craved justice, that still burned with the sting of betrayal, wanted to unleash the code immediately, burn it all down, let the world see Becca for the fraud she was. But another part, the responsible, pragmatic part that had always cleaned up everyone else's messes, hesitated. Artisan Connect, despite its tainted origins, was doing good work. It was genuinely helping thousands of small artists and makers find a market for their creations. Destroying the company would hurt them too, and it would irrevocably destroy what little remained of my relationship with my parents. Was revenge worth that price? The decision was ultimately made for me. My mother called, her voice cold and sharp. "Sarah, I need you to stop this nonsense," she said without preamble. "Becca told me about your little scene at the hotel. You are embarrassing this family. Whatever petty jealousy you're feeling, you need to get over it. Becca is offering you a chance to invest in her next funding round. A small amount, $10,000. Consider it an opportunity to finally be a part of her success." I was speechless. She wasn't calling to mediate, to understand, to broker peace. She was calling to demand more money, framing it as a favor to asterisk me. The delusion was so complete, so staggering, that it snapped something inside me. The hesitation vanished, replaced by a cold, clear certainty. They would never stop. They would never see the truth. They would continue to exploit and erase me as long as I allowed it. "No, Mom," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I won't be investing." And I think it's time everyone understood exactly how Becca achieved her, quote, success. "What does that mean?" she asked, a flicker of unease in her voice. "It means," I said, "that the truth has a way of coming out. Sometimes, it's hidden in plain sight. Or maybe, hidden in the code." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I retrieved the encrypted key sequence from my old laptop. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with a strange, exhilarating sense of righteous power. Accessing Artisan Connect's back-end system remotely wasn't difficult. I had built in the diagnostic access protocols myself years ago. I typed in the complex sequence, a string of characters that felt like an incantation. I hit enter, and then I waited. According to my design, the subroutine would run silently in the background for approximately 24 hours, performing a deep data integrity scan and compiling the authorship report. Then, it would automatically email the encrypted, unalterable report to a preset list of recipients: the company's board of directors, their lead investors, Becca's executive team, and, just for good measure, the tech reporter at the *Wall Street Journal, who had written the most recent glowing profile of my sister. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I went through the motions of running my bakery, kneading dough and frosting cupcakes, but my mind was elsewhere. Had it worked? Had Becca's team discovered and disabled the subroutine before it completed its run? Had I just lobbed a dud grenade? The first sign that the grenade had indeed detonated came the following afternoon. I received a frantic, almost incoherent voicemail from Becca. "Jenna, what did you do?" she shrieked, her voice tight with panic. "The system is generating some kind of massive diagnostic report. It's going to the board. Call me back now." I didn't call back. An hour later, my phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number with a Silicon Valley area code. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from Mark Ellison, the chairman of Artisan Connect's board of directors and their lead investor. His voice was calm but steely. "Ms. Bellwether," he said, using my last name, a formality that spoke volumes. "We have received a highly unusual system report. It appears to contain significant discrepancies regarding the company's foundational code authorship. We require your immediate clarification on this matter. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience." Clarification. That was Silicon Valley code for "explain yourself before we sue you into oblivion." The dominoes began to fall with breathtaking speed. The Wall Street Journal reporter called, asking for comment on the allegations of intellectual property theft swirling around Artisan Connect. My parents called, alternating between tearful pleas and furious accusations. Becca called, over and over, her messages devolving from panicked demands to desperate, rambling apologies. I responded to none of them. I simply forwarded the chairman's voicemail and the reporter's inquiry to my Uncle Michael, who, despite his retirement, still kept his law license active. "Handle this," was all I wrote. Uncle Michael, relishing the opportunity to finally bring my family's dysfunction into the harsh light of legal reality, handled it brilliantly. He contacted the Artisan Connect board, presenting them with not just the diagnostic report, but also my own meticulously kept records, emails, early code snippets, even the napkin sketches from that first fateful conversation. He made it clear that I wasn't seeking to destroy the company, but I was demanding two things: public acknowledgement of my foundational role and significant, retroactive equity commensurate with my initial investment and contribution. Faced with irrefutable proof and the threat of a catastrophic lawsuit that would expose their celebrated CEO as a fraud, the board folded quickly. Becca was forced to issue a public statement, a carefully worded piece of corporate spin acknowledging my, quote, early and crucial contributions to the company's development. Behind the scenes, the settlement was far more substantial. I received a significant equity stake in Artisan Connect, finally making me the co-founder I should have been all along. The shares were worth millions. Becca was quietly demoted from CEO to Chief Creative Officer, a title that allowed her to remain the public face of the company while removing her from any real operational control. The board installed a new, experienced CEO to manage the business. My parents were livid. My mother accused me of being greedy, of betraying my sister. My father called me ruthless. Their narrative hadn't changed, only the target of their blame had shifted. "You got what you wanted, didn't you?" My mother spat during one final, ugly phone call. "The money." "No, Mom," I said quietly, the anger finally gone, replaced by a calm, sad certainty. "I didn't want the money. I just wanted the truth. I wanted you to see me. But you never could." I hung up, and this time, I blocked their numbers. It's been 2 years since the Artisan Connect settlement. Life is different. The money, arriving in my account in a single staggering wire transfer, felt unreal at first. It was more money than I had ever imagined, a sum that fundamentally altered the landscape of my life. The first thing I did was pay off my business loan. The second was to finally buy the commercial oven I had been dreaming of for years. The third was to hire a full-time assistant manager for the sweet spot, freeing me up from the daily grind and allowing me, for the first time in my adult life, to breathe. I didn't buy a mansion or a sports car. I invested most of the settlement wisely, thanks to advice from Uncle Michael. I bought a small, charming house with a big garden near my bakery. And I finally started planning the expansion of the sweet spot, not just a second location, but a larger commissary kitchen and a program to mentor other aspiring female food entrepreneurs. My dream, deferred for so long, was finally, fully, coming into focus. My relationship with Becca is complicated. We communicate occasionally, mostly through polite, brief emails related to Artisan Connect board matters. The anger between us has cooled into a kind of wary, distant truce. She is still the chief creative officer, still gives interviews, still plays the part of the visionary. But the narrative has changed. My name is now officially included in the company's founding story. Sometimes, in interviews, she even manages to say my name without flinching. It's not forgiveness. It's not reconciliation. It's just coexistence. Perhaps, someday, it could be more. Perhaps not. My parents remain estranged. They refuse to participate in any further family counseling after the initial, disastrous sessions. They still see me as the villain, the one who destroyed their golden child's perfect trajectory. I mourn the loss of the parents I wish I had, but I have come to accept the reality of the ones I do. Some relationships are simply too toxic to salvage, and sometimes, the healthiest choice is to love them from a very, very safe distance. What surprised me most was the aftermath within the tech world. After the Asterix Wall Street Journal published a follow-up piece detailing the full story behind Artisan Connect's founding, including excerpts from the diagnostic report and interviews with early collaborators, something unexpected happened. Other women started reaching out to me. Women who had been pushed out of startups, whose ideas had been stolen, whose contributions had been erased by male co-founders or charismatic CEOs. My story, it turned out, was not unique. It was a depressingly common narrative in an industry still grappling with deeply ingrained sexism and inequity. Without intending to, I had become a symbol, a reluctant spokeswoman for the ghosts in the machine. And so, a new purpose began to emerge. Using a portion of my settlement, I started a small foundation, the Aletheia Project. Aletheia being the Greek spirit of truth. Its mission is simple: to provide pro bono legal and strategic support for women in tech who are fighting battles similar to mine. It's small, it's underfunded, but it's real. It's my way of ensuring that other women's contributions are not so easily erased, that their voices are not silenced. My life today is not the one I had planned. It is quieter than Becca's world of venture capital and keynote speeches. It is built not on algorithms and funding rounds, but on flour, sugar, butter, and the slow, patient work of building something real, something honest. I still work hard, but it's a different kind of hard. It's the satisfying exhaustion that comes from creating something tangible, something that brings people a small moment of joy. Sometimes, when I'm alone in the bakery early in the morning, kneading dough as the sun comes up, I think about that hidden subroutine, that ghost key I embedded in the code all those years ago. It was an act born of caution, of a subconscious understanding, perhaps, of the precariousness of my situation. It was a fail-safe, and in the end, it did exactly what it was designed to do. It protected the integrity of the system. Not just the app system, but my own. It allowed the truth to surface. And the truth, I have learned, is the only foundation truly worth building on.